Imagine you're at dinner with friends, the atmosphere is buzzing, the food smells incredible, and the waiter places a gorgeous dessert in the center of the table. Everyone digs in and they're enjoying every bite except you, because your mind is racing. Should I have some? Will it ruin my progress? Maybe just one bite? No, if I start, then I won't stop. But I don't want to feel deprived either. And instead of being present, enjoying the moment, you're in an exhausting mental tug of war over a slice of cake. Sound familiar? What if I told you that you could enjoy food, truly enjoy it without guilt, without overthinking, and without it sabotaging your weight loss goals? In today's episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Welcome back to the Thriving Metabolism. I'm Louise Digby, and if you're new here, I help women over 40 to finally break free from dieting, balance their hormones, and lose weight in a way that's actually sustainable. No starvation, no cutting out food groups, just smarter, evidence-based approach that works with your body, not against it. Now, today's episode is one that you don't want to miss, especially if you've ever felt trapped in the cycle of good days and bad days when it comes to food, or if you've avoided social events because you're afraid of falling off the wagon. Here's what you're going to take from today's episode. Firstly, why traditional dieting sets you up for failure and what to do instead. How your metabolism and hormones actually work after 40 so that you can stop fighting against your body, and the mindset shift that lets you enjoy food guilt-free while still making progress. I'll also give you my best strategies for eating out, enjoying treats, and still seeing results. So by the end of this episode, you're going to feel confident knowing that you don't have to obsess over every bite, and that true food freedom doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means reaching them without the mental burden of dieting. To really set the scene for you, I really want to tell you about one of my clients, Sarah. She came to me exhausted, not just physically, but mentally. She'd spent decades counting calories, trying every diet under the sun, and feeling guilty every time she gave in to something that she loved. And she said, I just want to be able to go out with my family, enjoy a meal, and not feel like I've ruined everything. Because she was stuck in that exhausting loop: restrict, crave, binge, feel guilty, repeat. And the worst part is that she was doing all of the right things, but she wasn't seeing results. And once we started working together, I showed her how her metabolism had actually slowed down because of all of the restriction. And I taught her how to nourish her body, how to balance her hormones, and most importantly, how to let go of that guilt. Fast forward a few months, and Sarah isn't just eating more food, but she's enjoying it. She's lost the stubborn weight that wouldn't budge before, and she's got more energy than she's had in years. And she told me just the other week, I finally feel free. And that is what I want for you too. So if you ever thought that losing weight means sacrificing the food you love, or if you've spent too long believing that you have to earn your meals, this episode is for you, because we've got to unlearn the dieting rules that have been holding you back and step into a new way of eating, one that feels good both physically and mentally. So I'm wondering, how many times have you started a diet feeling so motivated, convinced that this time will be different? You clean out the cupboards, you swear off sugar and carbs and wine and whatever the latest bad food is, and you promise yourself that you're going to be good. And at first it works. The scales start to move, you feel in control, but then life happens, a meal out, a stressful day, a craving you can't ignore, and suddenly you're off track. One bite turns into a binge, you feel guilty, you feel ashamed, and you swear that you'll start afresh on Monday. Does that sound familiar? That's not you failing, okay? That's the system setting you up to fail. The problem isn't you, it's the diet culture that we've been conditioned to follow. And for women over 40, the damage runs deeper because your metabolism is not the same as it was when you're in your 20s or 30s. Hormonal shifts change the way that your body processes food and stores fats and regulates hunger. But diet culture ignores this, and instead it tells you to eat less, to cut carbs, and to exercise more without ever addressing what's really happening in your body. And guess what? It backfires every single time. So let's talk science for a moment, because I want you to understand why this happens. When you drastically cut calories, your body senses a shortage. It's designed for survival, so it slows down your metabolism to conserve energy. And so it increases your cravings because it thinks that food is scarce. And here's where it gets worse. After 40, your body is already experiencing hormonal shifts that impact your metabolism, things like insulin resistance, cortisol spikes, and changes in your thyroid function. So when you restrict food, you amplify these issues, making weight loss even harder. And this is why so many women say, I'm eating less, but I'm gaining weight, because their metabolism has adapted to the restriction. The harder they push, the more their body fights back. So if dieting doesn't work, what's the alternative? This is where your power comes in. Instead of living in the all or nothing mindset, either being on or off a diet, either being good or being bad when it comes to food, it's time to shift to food freedom. Food freedom isn't about eating whatever you want with no structure. It's about creating a way of eating that actually supports your body, one that helps you to feel full, satisfied, and energized without the guilt, without the obsession. And I know that that might sound scary at first, because if you've spent years believing that control equals results, the idea of not micromanaging every bite can feel really uncomfortable. But let me tell you, learning to trust your body instead of fight it, that's where the real transformation happens. So the first step to breaking free from this diet trap is you have to stop seeing food as something to control. Food isn't the enemy. It's not something to be scared of. It's fuel, it's nourishment, and yes, it's pleasure. When you start eating in a way that works with your body instead of against it, something shifts. Your cravings reduce because you're actually satisfied. Your energy improves because you're eating enough. And instead of constantly thinking about food, you just enjoy it. And, that's the real secret to losing weight without obsessing. It's not about eating less, it's about eating smarter. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next, how your metabolism really works after 40 and the foods that actually help you to burn fat instead of store it. Because once you understand how your body works, you'll never need to diet again. So let's get into it. Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, your body just won't respond the way that it used to? Maybe you're eating healthier than ever, cutting portions, skipping snacks, but the scale isn't budging, or worse, you're actually gaining weight. And it's frustrating, isn't it? Well, this is what no one in the diet industry tells you. After 40, your body isn't broken, it's just different. And when you understand how your metabolism and hormones work, you can stop fighting your body and start working with it. And that's what we are going to be digging into now, how to actually eat in a way that supports fat loss without deprivation. So first, let's talk about what's really happening here. Your metabolism isn't just about how many calories you burn, it's controlled by your hormones. And after 40, there's a few key shifts that make fat loss more challenging. First of all, insulin resistance increases. Your body becomes less efficient at using carbs for energy, meaning that glucose is more likely to be stored as fat, especially around the belly. There's also cortisol spikes, which happen more easily. Your stress hormones stay elevated for longer, and that promotes fat storage again around the belly, and it increases your cravings for sugar and carbohydrates. And also your estrogen and your progesterone levels drop. These hormones influence everything from appetite to where your body fat is stored. And as they decline, your body holds on to more weight, especially in that midsection. And I must mention muscle mass. This decreases as we get into our 40s. Muscle mass is metabolically active, and that means that the more you have, the more calories you burn. But from 40 onwards, we naturally lose muscle unless we're actively trying to preserve it through both nutrition and movement. Now, if your metabolism has slowed, the logical thing would be to eat less, right? Wrong. Women get stuck because undereating actually makes things worse. Eating too little slows your metabolism further. Your body senses a shortage, so it burns fewer calories and holds on to fat for survival. And skipping meals actually causes blood sugar crashes. And guess what happens after that? You get cravings, you overeat, and you feel like you lack willpower. When in reality, your body is just desperate for fuel. Restricting carbs too much increases your stress hormones, and cortisol will spike when it thinks it's in a starvation state, which leads to, you guessed it, more fat storage, especially around the belly. So now you're probably thinking, great, so what do I do instead? And the answer is we need to fuel your body strategically. The goal isn't to eat less, it's to eat better. When you eat in a way that stabilizes blood sugars and supports hormones and fuels your metabolism, your body naturally shifts into fat burning mode without you having to micromanage everything you eat. So here is how you're going to do that. First of all, you want to prioritize protein at every meal. Protein is the most important macronutrient for women over 40. There's a very good reason why everyone is talking about protein at the moment. It stabilizes your blood sugar, it builds lean muscle, which helps to support your metabolism, and it keeps you full. If you aim for about 30 grams of protein per meal, so things like eggs, Greek yogurt, salmon, chicken, lentils, or a high quality protein shake if needed, that is going to work wonders. Next, we want to ensure that we're balancing your blood sugars with the protein plus fiber rule. When you eat carbs alone, your blood sugar spikes and then crashes, which leaves you tired and hungry and in fat storage mode. Instead, always pair carbs with protein and fiber first. This slows down your digestion and it keeps energy stable. So for example, instead of just toast in the morning, have eggs and avocado on the whole grain toast. You know, you might look at that and think, well, that's more calories, but actually the combination of the fiber, the protein, and the fats is going to keep your blood sugar steady so that you actually get out of fat storage mode far, far quicker than you would if you just had the toast. Another option is you could pair a plain apple with some nut butter or some Greek yogurt as a snack, for example. It's the combination of the foods that can be really powerful. Next, we want to ensure that we're eating more healthy fats. I want to just reiterate, just in case you haven't got the message yet, Fat does not make you fat. Unstable blood sugar and chronic stress is mainly what make you fat. Healthy fats like avocado, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and salmon actually help to balance your hormones and reduce inflammation. Next, we want to ditch the no carb mentality. Focus on smart carbs instead. Carbs are not the enemy, but refined carbs and processed carbs certainly can be. Stick with the slow digesting carbs like sweet potatoes, quinoa, oats, and legumes. They will provide energy without the blood sugar roller coaster. And just to go back on what I just said about how processed and refined carbs can be the enemy, I kind of just want to undo that a little bit, because I believe that there's no such thing as bad foods. It's all about the balance and making sure that we're basing the vast majority of our diet on whole, fresh foods. There is a place for some processed foods or more refined foods in moderation if that's what you want to include. But we have to have them in moderation, because in excess or without the right balance of other nutrients, that's when they can be detrimental. So I want to tell you about another real life example. One of my clients called Lisa. Lisa was doing everything that she thought was right. She was eating 1,200 calories, cutting carbs, doing intense workouts, but she was exhausted and she was moody and the scales wouldn't budge. So I had her increase her protein, we added in healthy fats, and we also got her to stop restricting the carbs. This was just to start with whilst we were waiting for her test results. So that meant that she was eating more, not less. And within just a couple of weeks, she noticed more energy, less bloating, no more afternoon cravings, and finally the scales started to move. And the best part of all of that is that she wasn't obsessing over food anymore. She felt free. So here's what I want you to take away so far. Your metabolism isn't broken. It just needs the right fuel. Stop starving yourself and start eating smart. Secondly, balance your blood sugars. The key is all about blood sugars to help support fat loss over 40. And that means prioritizing protein, healthy fats, and fiber at every meal. Next, your body is designed to work with you, not against you. And when you nourish it properly, you will see results without restriction, without guilt. And in a second, we're going to talk about how to apply this in real life, how to eat out, enjoy dessert, and still lose weight without overthinking everything, because you can have it all. So I want to talk about something that most diets completely ignore, and that is the mental weight of constantly thinking about food. If you've ever done a diet, you probably know what I mean. The guilt after eating something off plan and the over-analysis of every meal, the negotiations in your head about whether you deserve dessert or, whether you should make up for it tomorrow. This mental tug of war is just so exhausting. And if you've spent years, maybe even decades, cycling through restriction, overthinking, and guilt, you'll know just how draining it is. But here's what I need you to hear today. It doesn't have to be like this. You don't have to earn your food. You don't have to punish yourself in the gym. You don't have to punish yourself by depriving yourself of food. You don't have to feel guilty for enjoying the things that you love, because food isn't just fuel. It's connection, it's culture, it's pleasure. And when you stop viewing it through the lens of control and start seeing it as just a part of life, everything changes. One of the biggest reasons women struggle to feel free around food is because diets have taught us not to trust ourselves. If you think about it, from a young age, we're bombarded with rules. Don't eat after 7 p.m. Carbs are bad. Sugar's the enemy. Always leave something on your plate. Cheat days are a reward for being good. These rules strip away your ability to listen to your body. Instead of recognizing hunger, fullness, or satisfaction, you're conditioned to rely on external rules that disconnect you from what your body actually needs. And this is why so many women feel out of control when they stop dieting, because when you've spent years suppressing hunger, ignoring cravings, and micromanaging every bite, the idea of just eating feels terrifying. But that fear, it's not because you're incapable of moderation. It's because dieting has robbed you of the ability to trust yourself. And the good news is that you can absolutely get it back. So I want you to think about the last time that you told yourself that you shouldn't eat something. Maybe it was a piece of chocolate, a slice of bread, pasta at a restaurant. And then I want you to think about what happened. The chances are you thought about it more, and the more you told yourself no, the more you wanted it. And then when you finally gave in, you didn't have just a bite. You went all in, feeling like you'd blown the diet, and you might as well keep going. This is the restriction binge guilt cycle in action. And the root of it, the belief that some foods are good and some foods are bad. But let me ask you, does that chocolate have moral value? Does that bread define your worth? Of course it doesn't. When you label foods as bad, you give them power. You turn them into forbidden temptations instead of just food. And when food is just food, it loses its hold over you. So what does food freedom actually feel like? It's going to a restaurant and ordering what sounds good without scanning the menu for the healthiest option out of fear. It's enjoying a slice of cake at a birthday party without spending the next day compensating. It's knowing that you can eat a cookie without turning it into a whole pack because you trust that you can have it again if you want to. Food freedom isn't about eating everything in sight with no regard for health. It's about taking food off the pedestal, removing the guilt, and allowing yourself to make choices from a place of confidence instead of fear. And here's the thing, this isn't just about feeling better mentally. Food freedom is essential for long-term health because when you're stuck in a cycle of restriction and guilt, a few things can happen. You can create unnecessary stress, which raises cortisol and actually makes fat loss harder. Trust me, my clients that are the most fixated on the scales, the most obsessed with food, they're the ones who get the worst results. And a large part of that comes from the stress that is being created from this mental load around food. You also lose trust in your body's natural hunger cues and fullness cues, which makes it easier for you to overeat when you stop tracking every bite. You also develop an all or nothing approach to food, which means you either feel in control or completely out of control. If you want lasting, sustainable weight loss, you have to break this cycle because real effortless fat loss doesn't come from control. It comes from consistency. And you can't be consistent with something that feels like punishment or something, a way of eating that demands perfectionism. Now, let me be clear again, food freedom doesn't mean eating whatever, whenever, with no regard for how it makes you feel. You know, it isn't about ignoring nutrition or how food impacts your body. It's not about eating emotionally just because you can. It's not about giving up on your goals altogether. Instead, food freedom is about making empowered choices. It's knowing that sometimes you'll want the salad and sometimes you'll want the burger, and neither choice is wrong. It's about recognizing that health is about patterns and not perfection. It's about learning to trust that your body knows what it needs when you actually listen. And that's something that comes with practice. If you have been suppressing your hunger signals and ignoring your body's cues for your whole life, it's going to take a little bit of practice. It's going to be a learning curve. It's not just something that you can switch on. And it all starts with just paying attention and noticing what cues you're having, when you're having them. Is it when you're feeling more stressed? Is it when you're feeling more tired? What is your body craving? And just starting to listen to all of that. So if you take one thing from today, let it be this: food isn't something that you need to control. It's something that you need to trust. When you stop labeling foods as good or bad, when you stop obsessing over every bite, and when you learn to eat in a way that feels good, you don't just lose weight, you gain freedom. And we're going to come on to talk about how to put this into practice with some real life strategies about navigating the everyday things that might trip you up along the way, so that this way of eating is effortless and enjoyable, because you can enjoy food and still reach your goals. I have many women that reach out to me that are looking for that perfect plan so that they can finally lose the weight and keep it off. And the truth is, it's not about the perfect plan. It's about a sustainable one. Because let's be real, life is not a controlled environment. There are birthdays and holidays and dinners out and unexpected cravings and moments where you just want something indulgent. And here's the key difference between long-term success and constant struggle. It's not what you do occasionally that matters. It's what you do consistently. So instead of aiming for perfection, let's talk about how to create a way of eating that you enjoy, so that you can actually enjoy your life and your food and still see results. Diets thrive on rigid results. Eat this, don't eat that, no eating after this time, no carbs, no sugar, no fun. But rules don't create freedom. Structure does. Structure means you have a rhythm to your meals, a way of eating that feels natural, not forced. It's knowing how to balance your meals so that you feel satisfied, not deprived. It's having the flexibility to enjoy food without spiraling into guilt or overthinking every bite. Because when you have structure, you don't need rigid rules. You just have a way of eating that works with your body rather than against it. And most women over 40 have spent years trying to control their food choices, tracking, restricting, eliminating entire food groups. But real confidence around food comes when you trust that you can make choices without obsessing. It's knowing that you can eat out without scanning the menu in panic. It's ordering dessert because you want it, not because you feel like you deserve a treat. It's having a glass of wine without the fear that you've ruined your progress. Because when you remove the anxiety and the guilt around food, your choices become easier. And when your choices are easier, staying consistent becomes effortless. And one of the biggest reasons why women struggle with food freedom is because they think they can only stay on track in controlled environments, at home, with pre-planned meals. But, life doesn't work that way. You need a way of eating that fits into your life, not one that forces your life to fit into a diet. So the key here is being intentional, making intentional choices, not rigid control. If you're going out to eat, you can still enjoy your food without feeling like you've gone off plan. If you've got a holiday coming up, you can celebrate without turning it into a free-for-all. If you're craving chocolate, you can have it without guilt, because it's just one small part of your overall habits. Because the true balance isn't about avoiding food, it's about knowing how to enjoy it in a way that still aligns with your body. Your results don't come from what you do once in a while. They come from what you do most of the time. And that means you don't have to eat perfectly to see results. You don't have to avoid every indulgence to lose weight. You don't have to start over every Monday. Instead of aiming for flawless days, focus on consistent ones. That's what leads to sustainable, effortless weight loss. That's what food freedom really looks like. A key part of making sustainable changes and implementing habits that have an impact is identifying the habits that help everything else fall into place. There may be certain things that, once you achieve that thing for the day, it's much easier to implement the other habits that you've been intending on doing. For example, for me, I know that if I can get up at 7 o'clock rather than delaying it till 7:30, 8 a.m., then I am far more likely to follow through with my other habits. There's other things that I like to try and achieve each day. There's things that at the moment I track because they're habits that I'm trying to solidify so that I can be more consistent in the long term. For me right now, those habits are getting up at a consistent time every morning because I know that I feel better when I have a consistent wake time and bedtime. And also doing Pilates a few times each week and getting out for a walk for an hour every day. And the other thing is taking my kind of core supplements routinely as well. And for me, if I can achieve that first one of getting up at 7 a.m. each day, the rest of those things just fall into place. Part of it is that there's more time, but also it's a psychological thing for me. I feel like I'm on a roll and I keep going with those other things. So identify what that habit is that helps everything else fall into place. Doing that can be a real game changer. And if you find it helpful, tracking those habits can be really motivating as well. I use an app, I think it's just called Habit Tracker, and it basically is a tick box. You tick off the habits each day. It's quite visual, so you can see exactly how you're doing over a long period of time, like a year. And you can also identify patterns. So I know that there are certain days where I typically really struggle to get up at 7 because I typically have a later night the night before because I'm often working or I might be playing badminton or something like that. So when we identify the patterns, we can implement strategies to set ourselves up for success in those circumstances. So that's something that you could go ahead and implement today. But overall, here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. You don't have to diet to lose weight. You don't have to obsess over food to be in control. You don't have to earn or even burn off what you eat, because true sustainable weight loss, the kind that actually lasts, it happens when you stop fighting your body and start working with it. When you fuel it properly, when you support your metabolism, and when you release the guilt and stress around food, your body naturally finds its healthy, happy weight. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I get it, but where do I start? I have got you. The best place to begin is my Metabolism Reset Challenge. This is a powerful step-by-step way to get the core foundations in place to support your metabolism so that it starts working for you. If you've been feeling stuck, like your body isn't responding the way it used to, if you're feeling exhausted by the diet cycle but still want to lose weight and feel amazing, if you want to reset your metabolism and start balancing your hormones without restriction, then this challenge is absolutely for you. Think of it as your entry point into this new way of eating and living, a way that feels doable and sustainable and completely different from anything you've tried before. And if you love it, it's the perfect stepping stone to working more closely with me to truly transform your body and your health in 2025 or beyond. So if you're ready to take the first step, head to the link in the show notes or the description to join the Metabolism Reset Challenge now, because this time you're not starting another diet, you're starting a new chapter, one where you finally feel in control, at ease, and in love with your body again. And I'll look forward to seeing you inside the challenge. That's it for this episode. If this resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It really makes a difference. And I would love it if you left a quick comment and just let me know, what you took away from today's episode, or even just a quick thumbs up in the comments really helps support my channel as well. Thank you in advance for that. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please make sure that you're subscribed. Again, it helps more women find this message and finally break free from the diet trap. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.